Accessory drive on, coil packs on, last little bit of a piece is done together and this thing's gonna fire. Drives on. As you can see, I just did a little freshen up on the alternator, water pump, throttle body. We did put an intake manifold on it. I am waiting for the 4-bolt flange to show up that brings us to the adapter to the 3-bolt. That way that all fits good. We do have the alternator bracket and the power steering pump already installed. Gave those a little sandblast. I do have a sandblasting cabinet. Basically just toss them in, plug up all the holes, grease the back of the bearing so that nothing gets in them, and give them a good sandblast and a quick coat of paint. Basically do it with all the same as the water pump, throttle body. Clog up all the ports so they can't really get anything in them, right? And then blast away. So did a nice job with them. They look good sitting there. Water pump looks fresh. Alternator looks fresh. We are going to get those pieces installed. We're going to get the throttle body installed. Coil packs are already installed. I got to get the wires prepped up, and then we are basically ready to jack the truck up, get the last little stuff done on the bottom side, and then we can get fluids to it. So I'm going to go time lapse, get the accessory drive on, and we'll go from there. Guys, got the motor or the truck jacked up as you've seen last night. I got a lot of the stuff on the bottom side already taken care of. I'm just going to do the Y-band setup, and I think I got to put the bung in somewhere. I think my best option is going to be right down there where the collector meets before the flange. I like to prefer to keep them in the header, that way it's not getting a chance to get an air leak somewhere. So I'm going to take this manifold back off and then drill a hole in it, basically at the same angle as what that bolt is, and then weld the bung in place so that we can get the O2 sensor right there. So get at that. Okay guys, so got the bung welded in place. Just took a couple minutes there. It sucks I had to take the manifold off to do it, but the bung's in. Doesn't hit anything. The O2 sensor can fit down there nice. So you can see the bung right here. It'll hang out. Basically, the next step of action is to get the gauge installed. Eric does have a twin pod pillar on the dash already. We're going to take the volt one out and put the Y-band in. We do have to run a couple wires and then basically just power the sensor here. And then we are going to take the white wire, I do believe it is, which is signal for the ECM, so that we can hook up the equivalence ratio in a HP tuner. So let's get the wiring in. Alright guys, so have made the first, or have got everything else tied together. I got a little couple things to get tied to here, like a throttle cable bracket, because the manifold didn't come with one. Get the fuse panel box back on. The serpentine belt got to go back on. I still haven't got a radiator in because I just want to make sure that everything's good so that I have access to get, down the side of the motor if I have any issues, checking grounds, etc. So I have turned the key once, and basically we're getting no fuel pump. So I'm thinking the ECU's not getting power, and same thing, it's not sending it to the. If you don't kick, but we're trying. So, gonna figure out why the fuel pump's not coming on, and we're gonna go from there. Alright, so anyone that was watching or is watching, forgot to get some time lapse of basically getting the rest of the upper stuff put together. It's just the monotonous stuff, but we got the coolant lines in, radiators in, intakes on, everything's plugged in. We have had the engine running, sounds great. Just doing some final touch-ups just to make sure that everything's good. I'm going to lay underneath it, make sure that everything's tied together, zip tie up some last training lines, and then we should be able to put this thing back down on the ground and fire it up for you guys. So it's a time lapse, last little bit of stuff, and we'll get this thing outside. Alright guys, so engines together, everything is in. We are basically at the point now we are going to take this for a drive. I have started it up a couple times. I did have to make some changes to the tune just to get the airflow proper for the big camshaft. So if you're unfamiliar with how to do cam tunes, basically there's just a couple things you got to change. Because it's a bigger camshaft and the overlap stuff, basically you just need to add some extra air fuel to the MAF and the primary VE as well as the cranking VEs. Just kind of go through and just check over the torque limiting stuff just to make sure that it's all good. We have the truck right now running on strictly MAF. I'm not using the MAP, just strictly MAF for the time being. I am going to swap it back over. I'm just going to get the MAF side of the tune done, and then we'll swap to MAP, get that tune done, and then collaborate the two of them so that we hit the final tune. So in the meantime, I'm just going to get this thing fired up for you so you can hear it. And, yeah. Having a little issue getting the brakes bled. Can't get the two front calibers to bleed. Gonna pull the brake or the master cylinder off today and do a bench bleed on it, and that should hopefully solve our issue. I'm also just in the process right now of getting the rear wheel cylinder off as the bleeder's gone, so we need to pull that one to put a new one on. I got it sitting over here on the bench. Nice new Robestus unit here. So basically I'm going to get this off. I'm going to get the fitting back in, and then get that back on and see if I can get fluid to the back brakes, and then hopefully we can get some tuning done on this thing when we can get out in the street. So let's get at her. Got the old wheel cylinder off. You can see the bleeders had better days, so here's our new unit just from Robestos. I'm just going to get this one back installed. All the bolts did come out, so nothing broke there. And then we can try to get some fitting to the back. So just going to do the rear cylinder here. When I went to take the piece off, or the brake line off the last wheel cylinder, the brake line broke. So now I'm just going to I salvaged the old fitting off the line. I'm just going to straighten this portion back out so that I can get the fitting back on, and then what I'll do is put a flare on the end of this. But first what I'm going to do is use my little trusty ratcheting pipe cutter, get that line nice and fresh on the end, and then we'll go ahead and get this repaired. Truck. I forgot to take a time lapse of the removal of it, but nothing complicated. Just two 13 mils that hold it on the studs to the brake booster, and then the two 10 mils, or I think they're 3/8 actually, 3/8 ends that go in for the line. So essentially what you do is you just put some clear tubing in both ends. If you can get some clear tubing that's the same size as the outlet, you can just basically thread it in so it'll almost like hold itself in there, so it's pretty tight, right? And then run the lines up, fill it full of fluid, and then just pump away. And as you can see, I've already pumped it, I've already got this done, and there's no air lines. There's a couple little air bubbles right there and there in the system. So basically you just pump away, it'll push the fluid through. You can see the little air bubbles pushing through. Do that 3 or 4 times. I've tapped the reservoir a couple times as well as the master to try to get it to resolve, but it's weird that the front one, which would be the back brake line, actually gets more air than the front one, so, and it seems to be on the draw of it. But either way, it looks like it's working like it's supposed to, so we are going to get this back off the truck, or back off the bench, back in the truck, get the lines hooked up, and hopefully we have brakes. Brakes basically couldn't get them bled. I found another brake in a line right here. It's all the little plastic shroud that's over these lines that GM puts. It's basically corroding on the inside, and then when I start to fiddle with them, it makes them brittle, they break. So I'm 3 for 3 now. So I'm waiting on a brake line to do that. In the meantime, what I figured to do was start the truck up, back it out, and let it actually build us our airflow idle tables. So I've created a histogram. If anyone's familiar, I've created a histogram on the scanner. I only run the one histogram, that way there's nothing else being correlated so that the ECU can read properly. There's nothing else trying to read from it, right? The bits of the ECU are clear for it. So essentially put cylinder air mass over here, coolant temp in the difference. It will build the air mass table for you, and then you just upload that onto your come on, load up, would you? Onto your base idle airflow table here. Right, you just copy and paste that table over. So this table here is for the factory, or at least the last tune they did, if they even did this. So we're going to set it up for this way, and then get those tables corrected so that we can get it ready for the drive once we bleed the brakes. Again, bleed the brakes. Again. Alright guys, so as I said, just with it sitting here idling now, we can look in, see we got oil pressure, our wideband down here working. Actually it's idling really nice for air fuel wise, but basically this is the table being created. As I mentioned, you can watch it as it goes up in the temperature aspect. The table will create itself. So we're at 192, the fan is about to come on. As soon as I see the fan come on, basically that will create my table. And then from there, as I mentioned, just you do a copy of the table, and then you bring yourself over to this table and just post it or paste it in on both lines, in gear and in park neutral. And that will basically give us our base airflow idle. So otherwise she sounds good, idling right along at 775. I do believe the fan just clicked on. So I'll just show you guys basically the process of this so we can push this gauge setup over. Oh, sorry. So you can see here, this is weird because I don't have my mouse. Basically, if you just copy that table, we're gonna shoot down under here, and we're basically just going to paste. And we need to begin pasting into both lines. Because those are our changes. So you can see the areas of which was actually different. Those areas we didn't touch in our temperature. So we are good to go for that now. So we'll upload that and then get the brakes bled. And then hopefully we can go for a damn drive where we can set up our table for our MAF so we can get our MAF tuned, and then we can set up our VE table so we can get the VE table tuned. And then we can go to some wide open throttle pulls. Alright guys, so as you see, we got the brake line fixed, the new line is in place, everything is working the way it's supposed to now. We do have the brakes bled, didn't end up needing to use the auto bleed with the ABS unit, so all is well. That's going to call for tonight though. We're going to go for the first drive tomorrow morning, so keep track of that video. That will be basically the tune process of getting the low end side of it for the MAF and the VE table figured out, and then we'll do the combination of them, make sure everything's good, and then we'll get off to the wide open throttle pull. So appreciate you following the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Check out Instagram and Facebook for updates as well. Thanks guys. Chat safe, drive safe.